Pastor Rick. How's
Hi.
it going? How are you?
Good. I'm well.
Yeah.
Fat and sassy.
Oh, that's good. Well, that's a good place to be before Thanksgiving.
That's right.
Doesn't
That's right.
I don't know if that bodes well for you for next week. But,
Not at all. It does not.
but we'll see.
It's a day of national discouragement,
Yeah.
I think, the day after Thanksgiving. They call it Black Friday for a reason.
Yeah. Well, just if you eat a grass-fed turkey, then you're also getting in your greens. while
Oh, there you
eat
go.
So just
There you
a
go.
little pro tip there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Yeah.
And if you can find potatoes that are also grass-fed and, green beans that are grass-fed, and if you get everything grass-fed,
Is that like, my dad used to tell me,
free range
when you
potatoes.
kiss a girl, you're kissing everyone that girl has ever kissed. I'm going, what? That seems unclean. I think he was trying to scare me.
Yeah.
And so if you eat a turkey, you're eating everything that turkey ever ate.
I mean, there's some truth to it, I guess, but if you really want to think about it, you're eating everything that turkey has eaten, but you're also eating, past generations of other creatures and animals that have kind of gone through the life cycle, and you might be eating a little bit of Adam. Adam might be in that turkey.
That's like a bonus protein.
Yeah. There might be some original ancestors in there. All right, that's not what I wanted to talk to you about.
I'm going to grumble
for
about
next
this
week.
conversation.
Yeah, that's for next week. What I wanted to ask you about today is, I often listen to The Briefing. I know that you listen to The Briefing.
Mm-hmm.
That's Al Mohler's kind of daily news
Yes.
podcast. Over the last few days, within the last week, he has been looking at some studies that have come out showing that young people, like Gen Zers, kind of the young generation, are reporting that they are essentially they're less likely to get married and have families, have children, have families than any generation that's ever been reported that has been surveyed in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So increasingly less likely, less interested to have families, less interested in getting married. It was pretty astounding, especially in light of the declining birth rate in America and many countries of the West. Obviously, we've been watching the denigration of the institution of marriage for a long time. But it was interesting to see how young people seem largely uninterested in it, especially young women. So I just thought, as a pastor, looking at it from a theological angle rather than a sociological or economical angle, what do you attribute that to? And how should we as the church respond to that? And what should we be doing? Or should we be reacting or responding at all? So that's the question.
Yeah. Well, obviously, any aberrancies to God's purposes, divergencies or contradictions to God's purposes, that the church needs to be concerned about that and help to disciple and equip our people and those saints entrusted to us by the Lord to God's ways. To lead them to God's ways. And I think in this particular trend, I suppose, it is the fruit of a divergency and a departure from God's purposes and design. And that really is what has happened over many, many years, decades, really. It didn't start in the 50s, but it really amped up in the 50s and then into the 60s, where anti-institutionalism, anti-authoritarianism, don't tell me what to do, the egocentrism that was deified and idolized of the self, and then the various things that entered into, even in the marital context, that devaluated some of God's purposes for marriage, such as the issue of birth control and trying to avoid having children and those kinds of things that really were amplified with that egocentrism that was developed and formulated among the secular world. And unfortunately, there is a history of observing the church, that the church is merely a matter of decades behind the world in its priorities. And that lag has even been abbreviated in more recent years, where we're hitched so closely to the world that the dominating cultural phenomenon of sociology and anthropology and so on finds its way into the church rather quickly. And we're seeing some of that in our young people. And I think there are several reasons for that. I mean, first, there is the untethering from God's design. In Genesis 1, there is a clear implication. And I know that I'm going to say some pretty absurd things here in a minute, but I think
I'm excited.
Well, it's just evident.
Yeah.
In verses 27 and 28, maybe you should read
Sure.
those.
So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth.
So he makes Adam and Eve. How likely do you think it was for Adam and Eve to say, yeah, this marriage thing, it's not really for me. I don't need
Maybe
a wife.
they're gonna have careers first and
Or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, how absurd.
yeah.
I mean, really, you just look down and say, Adam, did he have a choice? Do you think it was God's will for Adam and Eve to get together? Do you
Right.
think that was God's purpose? Now, obviously, people say, well, they're the only people in the world. Well, that doesn't matter because for each individual, you are the only person in the world that God has a purpose for that you alone are able to fulfill. Only you. I mean, you can forget the rest of the world. You have a responsibility. And part of that responsibility is to function according to the indications and the commands that God gave to man as the representative of all of us, that this is God's purpose for all of us. Now, I understand that there's the caveat of there are some whom God decides that he is going to use as celibate, but that's the exception.
Mm-hmm.
It's haughtiness to assume that you're one of the exceptions. Like, no, I'm going to be an exception. Well, that isn't really your call. You're to pursue God's purposes for men and women generally, and then God will navigate you through that to a place of celibacy where you must be content with being celibate. So it should be a status requiring grace that enables one to be joyful celibate.
Mm-hmm.
That should not be where people are eagerly seeking to go, right? Rather, the indication here is he creates them, male and female, and then doesn't even say get married. He says, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth, which presupposes matrimony.
Right.
So there's a presupposition here built into the text that you are going to get married. You are going to be joined together. And that's what he says essentially in chapter 2.
Right.
Look at verses 18 through 25.
Then the Lord God said, It is not good that man should be alone.
Now stop right there. Just excuse me.
Sure.
Is that true or not?
I think it's true. Yeah.
Good. You get an A. Right? No, obviously it's not good. This is God's assessment.
Yeah.
So for some Gen Zer to say, no, I think it's good for me to be alone. You are contradicting God. You are disagreeing with God. You are correcting God. You are, as I said, contradicting God.
Yeah.
Now, the whole discussion starts out on the wrong foot if you're a person who says, no, I think I'm going to not pursue companionship of a wife or a husband. I'm not going to pursue that. You're already at odds with God. That's a very haughty perspective, right? All right, let's keep going.
Sure. So God says, I will make a helper fit for him. Now out of the ground the Lord God had formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens, and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was its name. The man gave names to all livestock, and to the birds of the heavens, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper fit for him. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and while he slept, took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man he made into a woman, and brought her to the man. Then the man said, This at last is bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother, and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed.
So it's not good for man to be alone. So God says, I will design, make a helper suitable, fit for him, right? That will complement him, that will fulfill him, that will make up for any deficiencies he has, that between the two, the man and the woman, both will find their existence better because of the role that the other has in their lives than should they remain alone. Because it's not good for man to be alone. So I will design a woman that will fulfill the man so that the man could also fulfill the woman by clinging to her and being fastened to her so that they will become one flesh. So a woman, a girl who says, yeah, I'm not interested in marriage. You are pursuing an unnatural state of being. It is not natural for a woman to not be the fulfillment of what a man is lacking. That's what God has designed a woman to be. Now, again, there are women that God decides are going to serve him single. There are men that God decides are going to serve him single. But the default cannot be that. The default needs to be the obedience of God's purposes for man and woman. And we have so long unhitched our moral foundations from God's design that it's now normative to be out of bounds from what God has designed us to be and to feel somewhat natural there. And that ought to be something that is not natural, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why this exists. Another reason is the whole issue of the idolatry of autonomy. I don't want to have to bother with an opinion contrary to mine that will inevitably exist if I am in a inextricable relationship with someone that I'm going to have to compromise. I'm going to have to discuss. I'm not going to be able to free to just do whatever I choose. In that Genesis 18 verse that you read, it's not good for man to be alone. So I'm going to make a helper suitable or fitting for him. Meaning that you by yourself are not going to make good decisions. You're not going to have the sensibility and the sensitivity that you need by yourself. You're going to lack. And so I'm going to make a partner, a companion for you that is suitable to you, right? So that presupposes autonomy is a bad thing. Personal autonomy is a bad thing. You know, we can go to other places like in the multitude of counselors, there's wisdom and safety and so on and so forth. There's in Amos, where is it? I think it's Amos, where it talks about how that two are better than one. Ecclesiastes, yeah. Okay, so two are better than one. If one falls, the other can help him up.
Right.
And so does God mean it when he says two are better than one? Or am I going to say, no, God, you're wrong. One is better than two. One is way better than two. Well, wait a minute. That's haughtiness and arrogance against the designer and the creator God, who has made it clear that two are better than one. There is that idolatry of autonomy. Another issue I think that bears to it is fear. We are in a fearful generation, a fearful culture where there's a lot of fear. Fear of a variety of things. Fear of failure. Fear of financial failure. I don't have to worry about somebody spending my money. I mean, I want to be responsible for my money. And so if I get a wife or if I take a husband, there's going to be, double the possibility of failure financially. And I can't afford it. I can't afford getting married. I can't afford children, right? That's the idea, that fear gets into it. There's a fear of divorce. A lot of people are so insecure and so fearful that I know me. I wouldn't stay with me. Why would a woman stay with me? Or a man. Why would a man stay with me? I know the way I am. And they're fearful that the relationship won't last because divorce has become so commonplace and such a popular option for the resolution of interpersonal struggle that let's just bail out. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to work through our problem. It's not worth it to humble ourselves in front of someone. It's not worth it to be discomforted by the tensions that exist and the efforts that go into resolving those things. It's not worth it. And so people are fearful of getting into a relationship that's not going to work out. And so they're that insecure, that juvenile in their awareness of grace and the purposes of God prevailing in life. So they struggle with that fear of a failure in the relationship. There's the fear of missing out. That, I mean, single people have fun. I mean, they can go on neat vacations. They can pick up and go somewhere whenever they want. They don't have to check with somebody or get agreement or whatever. I don't want to miss out. And what if I marry this girl and another girl comes along that's prettier or more sensually pleasing or wealthier or whatever may be your particular priority? Or a man that's going to be more charming, more sensitive, more understanding, more secure financially, more whatever. So why settle for what's before me when something better could be out there? So I'll wait for the better thing when you have no guarantee whatsoever that there's anything better, or the haughtiness that asserts I deserve better. I mean, that's so contrary to the humility that exists, that demonstrates itself through gratitude for God's provision, to say, I don't want to miss out on something better, right? Another thing is the fear of responsibility. I don't have to take care of a woman, or I don't have to take care of a man. I mean, that's I don't think I can do that. I can't take care of somebody. What if they get sick? What if they, something happens? Or I don't want the responsibility of marriage and all that it entails, or children and all that entails. I don't want to do that. And then there's the fear of bringing children into a broken world. Why would I want to bring a child into this broken world? Why would I do that? This is sinful and reprobate. Why would I want to do that to anybody? Bring a child into this world, not recognizing that the way by which God glorifies himself in this broken world is through believers and the believers' children, who are like arrows in the hand of a warrior to fight the battles of the Lord through our children. So children are not victims of a society. They're actually overcomers in the society when we bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So that fear of bringing children into the world, mm-hmm. or the fear that they could be genetically faulty, or, if I bring children into this world, that I lose even more of my freedom than I lost when I married. Right. There are so many egocentric priorities that not only preclude marriage, but then once married, preclude the notion of bringing children into the world, right? When God said, be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. So that's part of God's purposes for mankind, is the bearing of children. But fear, I think, is a big one that causes people in all these different ways. Another thing is just flat out, and I hate to be so crass, but
you've been so gentle up till now too.
Someday your tongue is going to get stuck in your cheek, and you're going to walk around with this lump on your cheek. But
they have surgeries for that.
Yeah.
So it'll be fine.
It's just immaturity.
Yeah.
I remember my daughter one time when, after she was married and everything and had kids, and she called me up and she says, Daddy, I hate adulting. I hate adulting, becoming an adult. When there are pressures and so on there. Mm-hmm. And there's just immaturity that kids need to adult. They need to become adults. Yeah. They can't stay kids. You can't just stay on your parents' finances, living with your parents, being dependent on your parents, living in the basement, coming up after only when you're between pauses and your video games or whatever. I mean, that's so common.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or to say, I know that it's not good to be alone. So girls say, I'll have companionship in my friends. And so they just have really good friends who are their companions, not understanding that that's not God's design. Principally, I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
God designs that we
That's certainly a
be
good
social,
thing,
right?
But in the context of Genesis 2, he's not talking about, I'm going to make a bunch of homeboys for Adam to hang out
No,
with. Right.
no,
Yeah.
no, or girlfriends for Eve.
Right.
He didn't create two Adam or two Eve so that they could be buddies or
Yeah. Play
sorority sisters.
the Garden of Eden version of video games together.
Yeah. No, he didn't do that. He made one man, one woman. He said, okay, now get together. I grew up being taught that there was one woman out there that God has for me that is going to fulfill me, and I'm going to have the privilege of fulfilling her, protecting her. God has designed her perfectly for you to satisfy you in every way. Intellectually, she's going to be an equal or superior. And I, drat, when I got a superior, a woman who's mentally superior. She's going to be attractive to you. She's going to be gifted in ways that you need. She's going to give you children that are exactly who God desires to come forth from you. And you need to pray, seek the face of the Lord as to who that woman is, and be eager to when you find her.
Mm-hmm.
So when I found her, I was 19. I married her when I was 20. I'm not saying that everybody should be married when they're 20.
Well, you knew that if you waited too long, there was
She'd
the risk
wise up.
that she'd wise up.
Oh, for sure.
I understand.
Oh, absolutely.
I did a similar thing. I get
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
And of course,
You
her
gotta be strategic
perspective,
a little
her
bit, yeah.
perspective, of course, was that she was just a little bit older than I was, and so she wanted to marry somebody younger so she could raise him like she wanted. So that's what Pat has done for.
I'd be curious to hear how she feels
How
like
she
it's
goes.
gone.
How's that
If it's
worked out for you?
Yeah.
But I think that there's a lot of immaturity out there.
Yeah.
A lot of egocentrism out there.
Yeah.
A lot of detachment from God's purposes and ignorance of what God really has intended.
Mm-hmm.
And the lies that Satan has foisted upon culture,
Yeah.
and including the church who has bought into that culture, is that you'll be happier alone than you would be with a spouse. Now, I understand marriage is hard work, but as difficult as the work is as glorious as the benefits and the fruits of fulfilling your purpose in the design of God. There is an incomparable delight and joy in marriage. Companionship that is unequaled. Sure, things can go south, but things can go south in everything.
Right.
You could end up with, pancreatic cancer at 29 and be dead by the time you're 30.
Yep.
I mean, anything can go wrong. We are reliant on grace all the time in everything. So I think that's important. Now, quickly, how should the church address these things?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is one.
Yeah.
And that bears to the teaching on the issues of the theology of marriage, what God's intentions are, what his design is. Marriage has been assaulted. It's been denigrated. It's been decimated by the thought and the supposition that it's a societal creation, that society has the freedom to define marriage in any way it pleases, so that you have two men being married, quote unquote. And
Right.
I want to emphasize in bold scare quotes, two women being married. That's outside, completely outside of what marriage is. You can marry a pet. You can marry a pet. It really is ludicrous what society has done to marriage. And the charisma of marriage, in other words, the truth that exists in kernel form in marriage, has been lost, hidden for a lot of people. And the church needs to bring that forward. What is the theology of marriage? In our preaching, in our teaching, we have an equipping hour coming up, singleness and dating, that these things should be addressed in that venue, right?
And probably a couple summers ago now, you did a series, kind of a special series on Sundays, specifically on marriage.
Right.
Which I think a lot of
It was
people
a
found
6-part,
really, really helpful.
I think it was 6-part.
Yeah, so that's
sermon
on
series.
our website, on
Yeah.
our YouTube channel for anyone
Yeah.
that would want to listen further.
Right.
Yeah, it's out
And
there.
I would absolutely, maybe it was 4-part. I can't remember. I think it is intended to be 4.
I was going to say it probably started as
Yeah,
4, but
yeah.
it may have.
It may have grown.
It may have grown.
I think we need to, as parents, disciple our young people. I think so many parents are afraid of their children becoming interested in the opposite sex, that they are delaying that, and they should. I mean, I told my children, don't
Yeah, there's wisdom in that.
don't
for
plan
sure.
on dating in high school. You
Yeah.
don't need to do that. But they don't want to lose control of their children in that sense. So they kind of denigrate marriage. Now, we never denigrated marriage.
Right.
We always held marriage up. And we just say, you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
You're not ready. You're not ready to get married. Therefore, dating is a premarital act. And so you don't need to be doing premarital things if you're not ready to marry. You should, when you're ready to marry, that's when you start the process of dating and searching and so on for someone to marry, right? So you don't date for the pleasure of dating. You date for the purpose of marriage. So you're always looking whether you could marry this person or not, right? Not just whether I could use them for my own pleasures or significance. So that's an important thing. To hold marriage up as the ultimate end of joy, delight, fulfillment, purpose. It's got to be held up in our homes. We need to do that. Along with that is for parents to display delight in marriage. My children saw a man totally head over heels for his wife, and a woman who was totally in love with her husband. They saw that. They saw the delight we took in each other. They saw the way we loved to talk to one another. They saw the respect I showed to my wife and the way that my wife showed respect to me. That wasn't artificial or ostentatious, but was genuine, right? So we need to foster marriages where the modeling of marriage is a positive experience for our children,
Right.
right? And
To show them what could be.
yes, what ought to be,
Right.
what God's purpose is.
Right.
We need to be as closely aligned to God's purposes according to the grace He affords us as we can possibly be, in order that our children may see, people are married and are happy. They're happy. They're not miserable.
Yeah.
They're happy. And so we need to hold that forward. So providing scriptural clarity on it, teaching theology of marriage, showing, modeling it in our homes, discipling our young people in youth group and other things about the purposes of companionship and marriage. I think that's an important thing. And then I think the church needs to celebrate faithfulness in marriage.
Yeah.
As we see marriages that are faithful, anniversaries, the church should be celebrating anniversaries. Fruitfulness, when we have babies, we need to hold it up like we do, announce, hey, God has blessed the Nolan family, most recently, with Ryan, and what a blessing that is to them and to us as a church, and celebrate that as something major in terms of the ways that God blesses us as a congregation, so that children are viewed as a blessing from the Lord, as the Psalms tell us. And the fruit of the womb is His reward. And we need to display that attitude when we see children born, and even when we see announcements of conception and pregnancy. We ought to celebrate those and let it be shouted that God has blessed His family, and model that, for our young people, and run countercultural to, Charlie Kirk used to say, get married, have as many children as you can, right? And that's a message that has been woefully lacking in our culture. So the church needs to be a place where that's heard.
Yeah. Amen. Thank you.
Yep.